GM Farcaster, and welcome, Henry. Perfect timing. It is Friday, March 15th, and we are here with 21 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day. And with Adrian Ananish Prof and a special guest, Henry Stern, who is joining us from Privy. And we started the show a little differently today. I started with the delivery at dawn, which was an amazing little animation that was produced to celebrate the Dencun upgrade and the EIP 4844 core dev stewardship and every L2. And all of the funds, or 80% of the funds, I believe, are going to fund the core devs. So the Ethereum developers who keep us running behind the scenes, that nobody even knows they're there, but they're the ones who keep it all going. And that little film was to celebrate them. And if you were looking closely, and you probably missed it, there's a Farcaster arch in there. So there's a lot of little Easter eggs. There's all kinds of fun things. Bases represented, Zora, and of course, lots of Noggles, which is why I needed to show that. That was funded by Nouns DAO as a little thank you and love letter to the Ethereum core devs. So we started with that, and welcome, Henry. So today's show, we've got a Fridays with Friends situation here, bringing it back. And what we're doing is we're doing our regular 21-minute show, and then we're going to do a mini interview with Henry. So please, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying Henri or Henry, so let me know. Henry or
You're
Henri?
perfect.
Okay.
Henry's great.
Henry's great. Okay, good. We'll throw it to you to comment on things we're talking about in terms of Farcaster news. And just so you know, at times I'll be showing on my screen on Unlonely the casts that we're talking about. Just you won't see them. Just so you know, I always like to tell our guests this because they're like, "What are you looking at?" Because I don't share it with them. So Adrian, we've had a lot of big news this week, but the biggest is, of course, the 4844 EIP, the Dencun upgrade, and we had a lot of casts about this on Farcaster, of course, and we even had a couple from Vitalik. So I'm going to take a look at those first. Basic roll-up scaling milestone achieved. Next milestones are likely Verkle trees in history expiry, and some information there. And then he went on to say blobs are part of the chain, just like call data is. Today, or rather this week, default nodes store blobs temporarily, but with EIP 4444, call data is going to get the same treatment. The end game has for a long time been all nodes do real-time validation. P2P networks store history. And sort of a few other notes. This was amazing. If you are still confused and don't know what was going on, take a look at Eth Staker's live stream that they did. The recording is on YouTube, the Dencun upgrade live stream, and it was really informative, interesting, and exciting. And they showed when it actually went live, it's technically a fork when it went live. And there was even a little blobfish, ASCII blobfish in the code, which I thought was really fun. So all of that was there. So shout out to Nixo and Eth Staker for doing this amazing live stream. It was really well done. And then Jesse Polly from Base
Prof.
really helped us. Yeah.
You're going to kill me for interrupting. Stream is offline.
Oh, for God's sakes.
I would normally say, let's run with it and we'll drop a recording later, except we have people who set their alarm for 5:30 a.m. Pacific time just to join the live stream, and I feel horrible
and I
for them.
see that it is offline now. Great. Hold on one second. We're going to get this going. There was a change with Unlonely this week, so I wonder if something got a little messed up.
It's definitely Brian's fault.
It's definitely Brian's fault. We will blame Brian for this. I think it's on now. I think we are on now. I do see us. So hopefully you are seeing us now on the live stream. I'm hoping that that's working now. I think it's because I went into the chat and did something. So hopefully they see us now. Refresh again. Okay, so hopefully are we on now? Maybe somebody give us a yes. Maybe. I see us on the front page, so hopefully it's working.
I don't see it on.
I am seeing it on mine, but I'm not positive if that's correct or not.
All right, I'm going to exit out and come back in, and I'll tell you what I see.
And let me know. And I just won't go into the chat because I think maybe that's what messed me up. So hopefully you're seeing it now, but somebody give us a thumbs up or not.
I see us.
Okay, good. We are now live. Oy. But the recording will be fantastic.
Except when you go in, so here's the thing, it's on the homepage, on the front page of Unlonely,
Yeah.
it says we're live. When you go into the stream page, it says stream is offline.
Yeah, so just go to the front page.
And I don't know if this is DeWoofy who's doing all these things for you to see. Oh,
I'm sorry, I can't now. I'm not going to look because I'm afraid to go into the chat because I think that may have messed it up because they have a new way of you can just launch very quickly. But are they seeing the stream?
No, it's
Tell
the same.
Them to go to the front page because I see it, but it's weird. So I don't
when
know
you click in, I think it
shows live on the front page. Once we get here, it says stream is off. Refresh for update.
Yeah, I see it on live, so I don't know what else to do because it does say it's streaming. And as soon as I go in, you're right, I don't see it, but I do see it there, so I don't know what to do. Okay, so we're just going to roll, and I apologize for anyone who's in our live stream. If you're not seeing it, we'll have to chat with the Unlonely team and figure out what's happening because I do see us on the front page, so I don't know what to do. Maybe it's a mobile issue. Maybe try laptop. Maybe it's working there. I'm not sure, but we're going to keep rolling. We're going to keep rolling and continue to talk about the blobs. So want to mention this from Jesse at Base. After 2 years of hard work, blobs are now live on Base. Before it was 0.31 cents for gas to do a transaction. After 0, but actually 0.0005. Wallets need to update to handle these new cost reductions. So that's sort of the application of 4844 that we do get these amazing new, very, very low transaction feeds. Any luck? Is anyone actually seeing the stream now? I feel so bad that this is not working at the moment. I think what may be happening is the new update is the only thing I can think of that might be causing a little issue. So
I'm seeing it in the. I popped open the console on Lonely, and it looks like it's some issue opening up the stream on the client side. I don't know that there's much we could be doing right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do because, like, when I look at the front page, I do see us. When I click on it, you're right, I can't get into it. So give a quick, if you can, Adrian, just very quickly sort of tell our chat what's going on, maybe like in the Warpcast chat, just to let them know that Unlonely seems to be having some challenges this morning, and we'll ping Grace and Brian later.
And we love you, Grace and Brian, but we are going to make
Grace and Brian, but we're blaming
troll you today.
We're going to troll you hard. We're going to troll you really hard. But the recording will be out shortly after. So let's chat a little bit about 4844. And Henri, I don't know if you want to comment a little bit about that in terms of, I don't know, what kind of, we'll talk more about like what Privy is and all of that. But I don't know what kind of impact that has there. But I know in general, on any kind of transactions, this is going to be making it incredibly cheap, easy, smooth. So I don't know if you want to say anything, touch on that at all.
Yeah, I have two thoughts. The first, we at Privy are very, very excited about this, as is everyone else. Mainly because I think it unlocks basically a much lower threshold to trying to put things on chain because it's so much cheaper to go on chain. You can actually have your users do things as part of smart contracts that you weren't willing to do before, because who wants to pay 15 cents for a small action? And so I think that's what we're very excited about, which is how is this going to impact probably over the next few months the types of experiences that actually get put on chain. Because a lot of what we're seeing with builders today is there's always a question of, okay, this is an interesting part of my product. Do I put it on chain or do I put it off chain? And the calculus here shifted. So I think that's really interesting. The other thing I'm watching out for personally is whether prices go back up. Blob data is priced dynamically. Depending on the demand for blobs, it's more or less expensive to make what are called blob transactions. And so I'm just curious, as you know, we get a few more reps in, what does the equilibrium price look like for this sort of thing? And so that's the other thing I'm going to be looking out for, I guess, coming into the summer.
All right. That's a great point. And I see this for things like, if you think about things like, if we do Web3 gaming and you have in-game transactions and things like that. Obviously, that's why, a lot of Web3 gaming didn't take off until we had better L2s. But this, to me, even takes that to the next level where we can really do, those micro transactions that need to happen just couldn't happen on chain because they were just going to be they weren't cost effective. So I think, yeah, this is exciting into those kinds of things of like you doing those microtransactions are going to be just much cheaper and even could be covered by a game developer. You don't then you can do some coverage as well without it being super cost heavy, I think.
Yeah, the maybe image that I like, and this was a tweet from Hayden of Uniswap, is gas is like server costs, more or less. And the idea that we're having the end user pay for server costs is a little bit crazy. Like, as I'm watching Netflix, I don't have to pay per megabyte of downloaded stream. I have this monthly fee. It's obviously really hard to get these pricing models working in Web3 because gas fluctuates so heavily. So like you'd have a bill that's $10 one month and $1,000 the next. And so getting a little bit more flexibility around how we do pricing and bringing prices down, I think enables us to work in a way that consumers are most used to, which is to say predictable pricing.
Yeah, which will make it, definitely easier for the businesses too that are running these, to be able to even have some prediction about what their costs could be. Because even if you were covering gas and things like that right now, there's very little way to even predict what that's going to be. And the other area where I can see a huge help is in things like DAOs with voting and proposals and things like that. The costs on mainnet are insane and it make it very difficult to make it inclusive. So we've already seen a huge reduction with that with the L2s, and this just like makes it even better. It makes it much easier for on-chain communities to pop up and start and experiment without feeling like you have to really invest a lot to do that. Adrian, thoughts on blobs and all things Dencun upgrade?
I'm sorry, I've been chatting with our chatters. So you see me on the show and I'm not in the conversation because our live chatters are hysterical because we're not live and they keep talking. Like they're just shouting into the void. And Henri, they do say hello.
They say they're
hello. Super excited you're here.
I'm really sad that we don't have the chat going right now. It's like really making me sad. And I wish there was something we could do to fix it at this moment, but there just isn't. So we're sorry.
They're funny. They're saying they're Sisyphusing our chat. They just keep refreshing, thinking we're going to show up. So I'm super excited to drop the recording later.
I will get this out super fast to them, I promise. And I will, personally make sure that our regulars have it. Well, I will make sure of that. But we love you all. We love you.
But no, I'm super excited about blobs and Dencun and all the things.
All the things.
By the way, the fact that also, and I'm gonna kind of out myself, it dropped and I didn't even know it was coming.
Oh, really?
No, which just goes to show what kind of like,
Do you know why I knew it was coming?
Because of the movie, right?
It seems like it's a very positive thing, I think, that you didn't know. Because I remember when the merge came and we had, the pandas, I thought that was an amazing sort of meme with the black and white bear becoming a panda. I think like it's amazing that we celebrate what's clearly such an impressive technical achievement, because it's a ton of work and coordination to get all of this working and to get it working smoothly. Is pretty insane in terms of coordination, but also I would say most Ethereum users shouldn't have to care and should just reap the benefits of the UX improvement. And so the fact that we all know that the 4844 numbers and that there is a blob means we're still pretty close to the metal insofar as how does this thing actually work. But at least hopefully the next few developments that Vitalik talked about will go even more unnoticed to a place where the infrastructure is like sort of evolving under our very eyes without it being as clear a focal point. And I think that balance of we have to celebrate these like huge milestones, but also it's exciting that I think we're talking about what that unlocks concretely for users, as opposed to specifically the fact that it is a really, really cool protocol upgrade.
Seen that a couple times of when, if you don't hear a lot of fanfare about the upgrade, that's a good thing because it means it worked fine and nobody needed to, know anything really. And we saw that with the merge too. It was like the quietest upgrade, right? Because nobody had to freak out. Everything worked exactly as planned. And it's, again, we see this with this, and that just, I think, says a lot about the level of talent that's involved in the Protocol Guild and all of those devs that have been working on this. So it's pretty impressive that we don't have any major issues. It keeps on chugging, and that's amazing, and just gets better with time. But
Yeah, I mean, look, I
literally,
was
if it
drawn.
wasn't for this, Adrian, I would have been in the same boat. Like,
Okay, fine. But I was drawn to Web3 for blockchain. I mean, like it is the technology that pulled me in. It's endlessly fascinating. So I really just intellectually like to know what's happening, and the fact, it's just and these, the merge was celebrated. The fact that it happens and it's no one's even aware. I don't think it's just such an achievement. It's really hard to do large scale change, and it just seems like time after time things get executed and
no problem,
flawlessly.
And and there's a lot of work that goes in, and that's why it takes a long time from with this was going for well over a year, I think it was, where they were putting things in place and test nets and all of that, and it's really says a lot about the devs behind the scenes.
The thing I think a little bit about with this is clearly, that this is part of a process that's enshrining rollups as part of the sort of core Ethereum fabric. And I always, I guess, had a maybe backwards notion, which is like rollups are a solution to a problem, and the problem maybe is speed and the problem is cost, and rollups enable us to improve both by adding bandwidth basically through these side channels or state channels. And it actually seems like rollups are in themselves a feature, which is to say, being able to say I'm a base L2 person, or I'm an optimism, or I really do most of my gaming on Arbitrum, things like that. It ends up creating actually community around the infrastructure itself in a way that I don't think I'd sort of priced in. But I think this enshrining of rollups is really interesting.
That's a great point. Yeah, and you see people kind of align their tribe in the L2s, and it's kind of funny to see that that's exactly what's happening. And I've been having discussions with Lil Nouns about moving to L2s, and there's definitely tribal sense about which one. And it's really funny. And last night somebody said, "Is Base paying you to?" I said, "No, but but they did give us a grant." I said, "No, not for this." But it was really funny. I'm a base maxi at this moment. That's where my, that's the tribe I picked. So it's kind of funny that, I definitely, it's very odd for technology to have that kind of, that love, that like kind of weird love that comes with it.
This is fascinating, right? And the ability to kind of have multiple L2s to find the niche communities, and it will go out faster. I don't know if you showed yet, but there's a new on-chain podcast.
Yes, I did not show that yet. We haven't shown anything yet. We've gotten through one thing we're way behind. We're just
it's 21 minutes and we're done with the news. So Kristen asked us.
I will show it right now.
I guess I minted theirs, and they're on Zora, and she asked why we chose base. My answer was like, because based.
Because
it's just right. Oh, I mean, because
Jesse.
Other reasons.
I mean, honestly, it's more personality that it's Jesse. Really,
the vibes are impeccable,
and the vibes are impeccable, and the amplification that he gives to projects and things like that. But you could say there are people who will Arbitrum all day long. Others who are blast is the thing. So everyone's got their thing and their allegiance now, and it's. I hadn't thought about that either, but it's very, very true. And what's interesting too, this week, Base is now on Arbitrum through Orbits, and I don't even fully understand what that means, but I think it's through a layer 3. So I'm like, how does that even work? I don't even know. So we'll dive into that at another time, because that's a whole other thing that I haven't fully digested yet. I just learned about that last night. But we do have a couple more stories we need to jump into, and then we're going to chat about Privy. So let me go through those real quick, because we're just going to keep rolling. Normally we do an interview, we do a little pause, but we're just going to keep going because we've had a little different day today. But I want to talk about this. I came back from class on Wednesday to a whole new feed, and it was amazing. So this is from Varun. If you're curious about how the feed works now, it's basically take casts from your following and order them in reverse chronological order. Move casts higher if they're from someone you interact with a lot. Move casts higher if they have a lot of engagement. Move casts lower if you've seen them before. There's a lot of smaller rules, like don't show 2 casts from the same person back to back. Add a couple casts from your second degree network, things that people you follow like. And this is pretty huge because I noticed it without knowing it had happened. I knew it as soon as I looked at my feed. I went, whoa, okay, people I know are here again. Like the people I really like and wanted to actually see their casts are back in my feed. And this was exciting. So, and Adrian, I immediately said to you, I'm like, I've been away for 8 hours. Can somebody give me an update as to what happened? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's usually me. I just like screamed, Adrian, like, Adrian, help me. So what was your feeling about that? Like, it was
Did I not help
noticeable
you?
immediately. You totally helped me. You
I was
totally helped me.
there.
It was perfect. Yes. But
Um,
what were your thoughts on this new feed, this new algo?
I mean, it was immediate and phenomenal. And I love that Dan would bring people over to Farcaster and saying, like, come to Farcaster because we don't have a spam problem. But you can't solve a spam problem unless people come and spam. So the fact that that was a priority, it's like, look, they said it's a priority. They're going to make things. And I just loved seeing how many people were saying immediate, like just celebrating the improvements in the feed. So good job, guys.
Yeah, great job. Great job to the team. Amazing. So I was very, very excited to see that. A couple other notes. This is from Dan. Small improvement to Warpcast DC. Swipe to reply is now less sensitive. It shouldn't accidentally trigger while scrolling. So that is helpful. Also, if you are not aware, the Farcaster dev call happens, I think it's every other week. And they had one yesterday. The topics on deck for discussion yesterday were frame performance, hub reliability, feed improvements, and DC directcast performance. And there is a frame that you can go check out on Varun's, and this will be in our show notes, that gives you the notes from the call, the calendar, the Zoom, and the recording. So if you missed it and want to catch up on that, it will be there for you. One other note from V, the team is cooking 3 UI improvements that I'm really excited about. Can't wait for this test flight to ship. So that's exciting. I'm not sure when that's shipping, but soon. And before I switch into really quickly Drakula, any other notes that I may have missed, Adrian, from sort of the Farcaster team this week in terms of, because I feel like they've been just like, they're shipping like crazy again. They're in that shipping mode.
Just even when there's like, I just was going back to the days of when there were little updates, like changes to, like we would talk about that for 15 minutes. We don't have time. There's too many things. We don't have time for this. I think Dracula is the meta for the week.
There's all these little changes and they've been really amazing. Yeah. So let me shift to Drakula really quick. So Ted posted this. This was only 2 days ago. It feels like 700 years ago. Hello, Drakula. Goodbye, TikTok. You can watch this video and degen into it and earn blood for watching. If I get good engagement, I'll continue to make videos there. But then very quickly, we had some issues. So Cameron, hey y'all, just a heads up, this profile for me on Drakula is fake. Please don't buy the creator token because it's probably a scam. And then we had Johnny with the same kind of issue, non-linear, but we did see very quickly that the Drakula team did address this. I guess what the issue was that we were kind of under the assumption that because there was a Farcaster login, that it was actually like checking and verifying that you are this person before you create this account. And because they had other login options, that wasn't necessarily true because you could sign up with Google, you could sign up with different things. So there were imposter accounts. A little note from Adrian on that. with her meme, when you're not popular enough, oh phew, I checked Drakula and no one is quoting my name. I'm safe. And I told you Adrian's funny. I know you think I'm the
Okay.
funny one.
I've been accused of being in the Farcaster. Wait, what is it?
Faristocracy.
The Faristocracy. So to everyone who's ever accused of me, would a Faristocat not have someone try to take their name?
I'm gonna go and make a fake Adrian profile right this second to prove you wrong.
It's gonna link back to Privy's website. It's like a loop.
Nope.
Like this is not Adrian. But it was really good to see that they did pretty quickly address it and add a profile link to your profile if you are logging in with Farcaster. So they did make that adjustment fairly quickly. But if you were following a fake Cameron or a fake nonlinear, which I was, and you bought their token, which I did go and sell it really quick. I think it did go up in value. So, I didn't lose any money. So there you go. But that is the interesting thing about Drakula. So just to put one more pin on that is that you can buy tokens of the creator. So similar to what Frentech did, but in a very different way. So you're actually producing content. The user who's watching that content is earning something called blood, which is, think of it as points. And then the creator you can also buy their token, and that is, you can buy it with degen. So there's a connection. There's some degen benefits there as well for trading and things like that. So there's a whole other layer to this. It's not just TikTok on a blockchain. There's a whole other financialization layer for the creators, which is really interesting if they get some of these other things fixed. Also, the algo needs to be fixed immediately. I want to see people I'm following. I don't want to see the TikTok earlies all over my feed. Like, don't want to see it. So I need some blocking really fast. But Henri, what do you think about this new platform and approach?
I have a question about the I want to see people I'm following, because it's interesting to compare feed quality in an app like Warpcast and in an app like TikTok, because the algorithms, I think, optimize for very different things. And I'm a bit of a boomer, but I think the potentially what's felt magical with TikTok at times is getting content that you would not have known about from just the people you're following, but that end up being part of the zeitgeist altogether. To actually answer your question, I think it's awesome. I think Alex and their team have been doing a ton to push forward sort of social and understanding what can be built really uniquely using distributed networks in this sort of work. And so I think continuing to see experimentation around these new forms of engagement with content, and in this case, video, is really, really exciting. And I think it was such a good call to tie this to the Farcaster community in the way that it has been, because it immediately makes it interesting, at least to me. So I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Are you on there as well? Do you have an account? Are you posting anything?
I am a stalker. I am an Uber creep on these sorts of apps, and I'm lurking around.
Okay, well, go follow me. Need more followers. I made it onto the leaderboard. So that's good. I'm like number 27 or something. So I did drop a few clips from GM Farcaster, but you see that we're in sort of a horizontal mode. We're in the 16:9 mode normally, and then I had to flip it to a 9:16 mode, and even using AI and all the tools, it still needs to be tweaked. So I am going to need a much younger human to help me actually do this. But it was fun. It was a good challenge for me, and I always like, it's the way I learn things anyway. So that was something I've been wanting to do for our YouTube shorts. So it was like, okay, this gave me the push of like, okay, now I thought about TikTok for us, and I went, that doesn't make sense. I think that's going to be a waste of time. And then as soon as you tie it into Farcaster, I go, oh, now I have to do this, and I have to do this now. Because then it's like, this is our audience, this is who we want there, and this is also who I like to connect with. So just as a user. And so that's why I want to see the feed of people I follow, at least first. And then similarly to the way they just revamped the Warpcast feed, then if it's things that should interest me based on my follows, I want to see those too for discoverability, to your point. or things that are trending and things like that. But there's others that I really want to just mute very badly. So, Alex, let's mute. I do want to make one more note on this really quick, is that Jacek from Degen, the Degen dev, did note, huge day for Degen and Drakula yesterday. Nearly 1 million in volume on Drakula, translated into over 30K Degen on-chain transactions and more than 3K new Degen wallet holders in just 24 hours. So huge shout out to the entire Drakula team for an impressive launch day. I mean, I don't think anyone expected that. I know they didn't. So that was pretty amazing to see that aspect of it too. Adrian, thoughts?
I love, just shout out to you, Prof, because I love how you see something new and just immediately dive in. And it's incredible to watch. And I was like, I think I would need like 3 weeks to figure out how to do it, and you do it, and it's incredible. Just shout out to
time for that. There's no 3 weeks. 3 weeks is 300 years. So you don't have time.
It's great. I'm a little more of a, I love it. I just a shout out for the Genius vibes. So
yeah,
what we saw was this kind of massive launch, and then you know what, and something went wrong, like the perception, and easily people could have it could have caused fraction and people dunking, and you know, because these are kind of big issues when it comes to identity and safety, and you know, and I called it out, but just kind of the Genius meaning we're all building in this space. It's all an emerging space. We're recognizing that things like mistakes will be made, and we'll learn from them and iterate. So the fact that we can kind of have a little fun at the mistakes, but also just kind of applaud that we're in the arena trying things. And
Johnny had a similar sentiment. He said, because he was one of the ones who had the fake Johnny out there, and he said, just want to give a shout out to Alex and the team. Building is hard. It's very difficult to see with fresh eyes once you've been working on something day in and day out for months. I respect their hustle and rapid response times and look forward to future improvements. And then +1 kudos from Dan on that as well. So just to, same thing there. Henri, did you have any thoughts on that as well before we shift over to Privy? Any other thoughts on anything we talked about so far today?
No, I think you covered it. I think, you know, I'm excited to see the platform keep iterating. Ultimately, I'm always excited when I see new products being launched and new experiences out there.
Awesome. All right, we're going to shift a little bit to our mini interview with Henri Stern from Privy. And I really want to start with, you know, the basics. So we do have folks, shout out Sasha Red, your episode coming soon, who are new to the space. And they may not know what, you know, most of the people watching are on Farcaster. They know of Privy. They know a little bit about it. But we do have people who are just complete normies. So, and this, to me, is a perfect opportunity for them to learn more about you, because this really impacts them probably more. So if you could just give us a sort of the TLDR, what is Privy and what does it do for sort of the ecosystem?
Yes. So Privy is a developer tool. We are, if we were better people, we would be building consumer-facing apps. But for lack of that, we are a developer tool, and it is basically a really simple library that helps you onboard users, regardless of where they are in the sort of Web3 journey. So if they have just started and they have no idea what on-chain means, this entire 484 discussion went way over their head. That is great, and they should still be able to access these systems. And if they're extraordinarily deep in the space and have not, you know, 1, 2, or 3, but 15 wallets across hardware wallets and extensions and everything else, they should also be onboarded. And I think the reality today is that as a developer, having, you know, client diversity is an extraordinarily positive part of the space, because it means we're continuing to push. But it also makes it really hard to build an app, because you have to be thinking, okay, so I want it to work super well for MetaMask because there are a lot of users there, but also I use Coinbase Wallet, so I want to put it there. And then I have Rainbow that I also want to support, and so on. So you have to cobble together all these different libraries, which ends up taking an inordinate amount of time. And, you know, you're 80% of your time into a project and you haven't gotten even close to launching because you've been dealing with how do I get users on in the first place. So we help you take care of that. We build basically a connector library that allows you to connect any third-party wallet super easily, abstracting away the intricacies of any individual wallet and actually combining all the RPC calls into a single interface, as well as an embedded wallet system, so that for users who don't already have wallets, they can get some really easily with an email, with a phone number, with a social login, and they have a self-custodial wallet being sort of set up under the hood for them. And that's the idea, is to help make it much smoother to bring users on chain and to have them interacting with products in a natural way.
Awesome. Adrian, I'm going to shoot it over to you. We have so many questions, by the way.
So many, and
we did ask some folks we asked our Wow chat if they had any questions. So we have some from there, but Adrian also, I know, has a few things.
Yeah, well, just on a personal, by the way, Sasha Red does not understand what Privy does after that explanation. So Henri, Sasha's our, we love her, like big friend of the show, but she's not a crypto native. She's a normie. And I myself, who I consider myself somewhat crypto native, didn't really understand the term of embedded wallet, though I understand all the concept until this week. So I have my own wallets. I'm big on self-sovereignty, and I want to, self-custody all my things. And I understand you're kind of in the space of filling the consumer crypto, of meeting people where they are, and how do you kind of have the crypto? How can you have the crypto rails but sign up with an email? So my understanding is embedded wallets is the connection between and the ability to, like, that's logging in. I don't actually have to download a MetaMask Rainbow, create my own wallet. Privy will handle that for me.
That's correct. And for what's over, I'm going to show a blog post we wrote yesterday called like Making Sense of the New Crypto Stack, which actually kind of breaks down how does sort of these layers move on top of one another in order to create what we typically know as a wallet. So that's worth checking out. But I think it goes a little deeper than that. And at least the reason when we were starting, we wondered, what do we call this thing? Embedded wallet was a term we'd seen around. There's a really good blog post by someone called Gabby Goldberg saying, don't call it a wallet. That term is so overloaded. And she throws around a few different terms, and embedded wallet's one of them that kind of stuck with us. And I think the thought for us was, if I'm building a product and I'm really, thoughtful about the UX that I've built, there's sort of this fact, which is whenever I ask my user to take a really important action, an on-chain action, my user's immediately getting popped out of my product onto someone else's product, and that is MetaMask, or that is, Coinbase Wallet or Rainbow. And no matter how good we make the interaction in these wallets, and I think, for example, Rainbow and Phantom have been doing so much to push the UX of wallet usage, it remains something that's completely separate from the app. And so it's really hard for me to craft a product narrative and to craft an end-to-end experience if I basically half of the time have lost my user to a third-party thing. Imagine in gaming, my user is about to take an action, it's going to propagate on chain, and whoop, there's a pop-up in front of their screen in the middle of the game telling them approve this. And so I think account abstraction is doing a lot to solve this. And I think another way we can do this is by having the actual wallet sit a little bit closer to the app, so that the developer has a little bit more control over how they do this. Of course, it's an extraordinarily complex problem, and we spend a ton of time basically making sure that we can give the developer a little bit more control over their experience without stripping the user of control that they should have over their assets and over what they're doing on chain.
That's a great explanation. I do want to shout out, I did just show that blog post on the screen. And this was the cast yesterday. If you're building a user-facing product in crypto today, here's a quick guide to help you make sense of the stack. And I read this last night, and it was a huge help to me, which I kind of understood a lot of this already in a general way, but this really puts it in a very easy to understand approach. So if you are confused about what this all means, definitely recommend taking a look at that blog post. Super helpful.
I got to read it today.
I dropped a link in our Discord.
Yeah. And obviously, like, when this is a Farcaster show, and we're kind of like, we're all in crypto, but I'm kind of Farcaster maxi. And I saw it happen with Farcaster, the ability to sign up with an email. I just onboarded a friend, like stood over his shoulder and watched it. So here's this is the big question I have, right, is like in this embedded wallet world, which is okay. So there's some app, I get an embedded, let's just call it Farcaster maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good term for what it's worth, because that's exactly what's happening in Warpcast. The reason you have to sync back to your phone when you log in on the web is because the phone is actually holding keys that are taking actions on your behalf. So it does imply that you trust Warpcast not to sign random casts for you, but only to sign the ones that you actually meant to post. But that's exactly the world, in this case, of an embedded wallet, which is the wallet is sitting within the Warpcast app itself, which is why you're not having to sidle back to MetaMask every time you want to post a new cast or like someone's content.
But then, yeah, so I guess that's the question, is where do the keys then, like, so I don't have the keys, like, because I just remember my first time of like getting my first wallet was the first thing where here are your keys.
Yeah.
Put it on a piece of paper and go store it in a safe and never show anyone those keys. I used to get like, I didn't even like that I could see them again on my phone, because I was like, where is that? Where are those keys living? And is it on the, so, and unlike a password where like, oh, my password gets leaked and there's a little bit of time for some recourse, I can change my password, and I have some sort of insurance that someone's, like if my keys get lost, very bad things can happen very quickly. So kind of in the world of embedded wallets, where are the keys stored? And does Privy have access to them gun to head, aka, or or federal subpoena in hand? What happens?
It's a good question.
It's a great question. So two answers. First, basically, there are multiple purveyors of embedded wallets out there. Different stacks get used. I'll talk about ours. We basically use a technology called Premier Secret Sharing to split keys. So the idea is we want to give you some of the flexibility that you have with, say, a password, but ultimately the keys need to be able to interact with on-chain systems. So when you sign up to a product with, say, your Warpcast login, we will generate keys on your device, on your mobile phone, and we will immediately split them into multiple shares, two of which have to be recombined in order to do anything. And basically, Privy is handling one share on your behalf, one of them is on your device, and one of them is used in case you lose your device to recover your keys. And basically, as soon as you have two shares, you can get the key back and you can split it again. And so that gives you some flexibility. For example, if you lose your device, we can use the other two shares, recombine, create a new key, and then split it again. So you have a new fresh device share. It's kind of like you forgot your password to reset it, because we're not handling the keys directly, we're handling key shares. So that's how basically we build a system whereby we are doing this sort of cryptographic orchestration for you. We're helping you manage these key shares, but we actually never have access to the keys themselves, nor does the developer using Privy. So Drakula actually uses Privy. Drakula can't see any of your keys, nor can we gun to the head, and we've put a lot of systems in place to do it. And then you'll see on some applications, the user is asked to set a password, and that is basically the subpoena proofing, which is to say that creates entropy, whereby even if Privy changed all of its architecture under the hood, Privy would not be able to recuperate the actual sort of cryptographic secrets that we're helping the user sort of manage. And here, it really depends on threat model. So again, I'll shout out to our blog. These are ultimately questions where explaining, this is my fear. My fear is a government agent goes to Privy, or my fear is I have someone sitting in my browser trying to sniff every packet I'm sending across to understand what I'm doing. Depending on threat model, there are different responses. And I think our take has been the wallet has to be modular enough to account for a given user and for a given application threat model.
That's great.
I love that answer. I'm going to go listen to this recording later in slow motion with a few blog posts as well. No, Henri, but great, because also people will listen too, and they'll also dig in. So I thought that was really good.
That's super helpful to me, that to get a better understanding myself. So that was really helpful.
my fear is, listen, I think this is not my, I'm like super high level, understand it. And my fear, I think always is, listen, there's like kind of all the bad actors out there, and you obviously protect against them. But I'm always just worried about the, just like kind of the internal operations. And I've seen this of like the well-intentioned developer in companies who have access to information, and they're deep, just whatever, what can they do even in the course of a day? So my memory is, there was a famous Twitter one where someone's debugging something, and listen, you can say everything's encrypted everything's encrypted everywhere. No one has access to everything. But at some point, the fact that I can see a password on my device and it's encrypted somewhere means there's some decryption happening somewhere. And so I just remember there was a case of Twitter, I think it was, where a developer took passwords, which are encrypted everywhere. You shouldn't be able to see them. The code decrypted, right? And wrote it to a log file. C drive log.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got plain text passwords, which you should never have. So oops, like well-intentioned, trust us. But I'm like, so just in the world of crypto and kind of my background, I'm always thinking of like, how do I know that doesn't happen? Anyway, so.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I can answer it if you'd like.
Yeah.
And
you can try. I won't, I'm telling you, but too deep, even when you're talking about the splitting of the parts, and I've kind of understood conceptually, but go ahead and you can anser, and then I'll have to listen back in slow-mo.
I think but I think these are really deep questions, and unfortunately, all I've got are unnervingly nuanced answers, which is, frankly, I think you're shit out of luck, because trust is, and this is a little bit anathema to say in this space, part of the fabric of using any system. And so there's a paper I really love called "On Trusting Trust," and it was an acceptance speech for a Turing Award from one of the folks who I think invented Unix, Ken Thompson. And in it, he kind of describes this, how do you know what a program is doing? Well, you read its source code. But how do you know that the source code is actually the source code to the program? Well, you read how the compiler works. But someone can bootstrap the compiler to insert bugs. And so he basically gets to an argument, which is, at the end of the day, unless you're smelting your own metal and making your own chips, there is a root of trust somewhere. You're trusting NVIDIA that the chip isn't leaking your data. You're trusting Apple that there's not a keylogger somewhere in there. And you're trusting MetaMask that they're not sending your keys to some server somewhere and actually recording them. And so there's a lot of deep technical answers, trusted execution enclaves, have attestation systems where the client can attest to what the server is doing. And all of that's great. But no matter how you dig, if you're looking for a root of trust, you will find one. Again, unless you're smelting your own chips and writing your own software, which no one is, and which frankly, if we did, that is kind of part of the problem, which is you then need to reinvent the wheel whenever you're building something, which means we never build anything new. So I think part of our starting principle with Privy has been, we are not here to tell users what to do, and we are not here to tell them what is right. We have our own frame for this is the appropriate floor for a security and custody perspective that we will not go below, because we believe it puts users' assets at risk, and we believe it puts developers at risk from a custody standpoint. So we are a self-custodial secure system. And from there, we have spent an inordinate amount of time building, for example, wallet connectors, so that you can come in with your MetaMask if you don't feel comfortable using an embedded wallet. And I think our take has been, in order for this space to grow, it needs to be more inclusive of people who want to try to do things in different ways. And so for some people, logging in with Warpcast and having a wallet generated behind the scenes is great. And for others, it won't be kosher. And that's completely fine. We just want to support basically users so they can access on-chain systems in a secure way. But we also understand that not all users are alike. And I don't think we should try and force them to be. So I think this sort of, I don't know that I could say, unless you're using a ledger, you're not a real OG, because it really depends on what you're trying to do.
That's a really, really great answer. So actually, the trust thing just kind of reminded me of, right? We have the whole self-sovereignty value, which if you take it to the extreme means you don't trust anyone, and which is fine. And then you're your own fire department, your own police station, your own bank, your own, and that works for some people, but it's not the world for me.
I've been saying this for years, that the true currency of Web3 is trust. That's it. Trust is the true currency of Web3. And so you have to figure out who to trust and who to trust with what. Otherwise, like, there's always these potholes, and you have to figure out what level of trust you're willing to give as well. So,
and then there's obviously things like open source, right? Like, I don't actually read open source libraries, but I have this trust that there's an open source community and enough voices, enough developers.
Yeah.
That when I see something is like Rainbow, if Rainbow Wallet is open source, is it, Henri?
I'm not sure.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to this.
Protocol, Farcaster protocol is. You could just use that as an example.
Okay, but it's like, so it is. I will trust open source more likely. It doesn't mean there's not you can attack open source. There's vulnerabilities, but things like that to think about.
No, and I think that's maybe one thing that I have to be careful about in the way I phrase things. It kind of seems like a nihilistic argument, which is to say there is no trust, so it doesn't matter, and that's not actually true. Like the reality is, it's extraordinarily complicated from a technical standpoint to prove that software is actually running the open source thing that you thought it was. And this is where blockchains, by the way, fix this. Blockchains actually do fix this, because you could prove that the smart contract you're connecting to is doing that exact thing. But even if, say, the Rainbow Wallet extension code was open sourced, it's not super easy to prove that the thing that's running in my browser corresponds to that code that you're seeing in GitHub. Nonetheless, I think open source, for example, is a magnificent way of actually building trust, and more importantly, of securing systems. So we've open sourced, for example, the entire cryptographic library that does the key splitting. There's a lot more we could open source and that we will, but I think I don't mean to say because there are attack vectors on anything, trust in itself is meaningless. I think there's a lot of ways for companies to actually build and earn their users' trust by being transparent about the limitations of the system, and by being as open as they can be about how the system actually works, so other people can dig in and poke holes. So I think you're completely right.
Yeah, and there's something, and I've been reading Read, Write, Own, but there's something Chris Dixon talks about of like the Ethereum and blockchain that becomes like the software becomes the computer. And you don't have that separation of kind of code over here, running it over here, and it's kind of all in one. So kind of moving in that right direction.
I want to keep really conscious of time, because I know that we've only got for another 5 minutes or so. So and my head hurts too. No, but this has been awesome. Like,
in a good way.
Has been such, no, this is so good. I'm gonna be listening back to this again myself. And Adrian has homework to do. She's got to go read the blog. I can't say that enough. Like, it's really great blog. It really helps you get a better understanding of not only the way Privy works, but some other aspects of blockchain in general, and sort of that layer. But Adrian usually has some amazing, fun little questions that we like to end with. So we got to do that before we wrap. So Adrian,
lightning round.
What you got? Lightning round. Here we go.
All right, Henri, get nervous. We get super personal in the lightning round. All right, so GM Farcaster is a show about Farcaster. We all meet on a social network. So my first question to everyone is, when did you make your first internet friend?
We should really start prepping people for this question.
That's a great question. No, sorry.
No preps.
I probably, the honest answer is I was very reluctant to join Facebook for a long time. I suspect it predates Facebook, and it was probably AIM. So it must have been somewhere like 2003, 2004, and probably in some janky chat at the bottom of AOL. This is a long lost friend at this point, so I can't say it's run much deeper. But the friends I still have that I made online, that was probably in college, and folks that I've now met in person, but that started as people I met online.
By the way, I met my first in like 2019. So no, it doesn't mean I had, like literally like someone I met on the internet that I became friends with. So I'm late, and then I was so good, I'm all in now. Now I do nothing but internet
now
friends.
We only make internet friends, and we don't care for those people in IRL. Like, no. All my friends live here now, in here.
What is your favorite channel?
I think I have a soft spot for probably tabletop games. I'm butchering the channel name now, but I think it's Tabletop Games.
Tabletop. It's tabletop. Yeah.
Tabletop. Thank you.
Shout out. I speak nerd. There we go. Love that. I think there's going to be a FarCon tabletop side event, by the way.
Do you know I
want to
Speak
go.
Nerd?
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
At Eth Denver organized the whole tabletop arena in the basement of Eth Denver. Did you know that happened?
I had no idea. I shamefully did not know because I would have lived there.
Oh, you missed it. Yeah. I missed it, but I heard it was really great. Adrian,
I went in the afternoon and it was like the most relaxing reprieve from the chaos of upstairs. It was super cool. Okay. What's your favorite game?
Ooh, good question.
That's a great question. There's a game called Jaipur. That's a 2-person game that's very, very good. It's about trading. That will be my answer today.
I have one other question. Do you play Settlers of Catan?
I do, but I haven't gone to like cult level like fanaticism. I think in some way other people do. So I think it's a good game.
I'm developing one that'll work. That'll be on chain. So very soon.
Ooh.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Do you play Bonanza?
No, I've never heard of Bonanza.
Okay. Well, I learned it at Eth Denver and I just ordered it on Amazon so I can play it at home. Shout out Lynx. Who's definitely not a cheater. Have you seen any interesting frames recently? Favorite frame you've seen?
Oh man. So I actually, when frames came to, I put out a bounty cast to basically give a bounty to my 3 favorite frames based on completely nothing but my own taste, which is to say arbitrary taste. And I've been extraordinarily delinquent because I was supposed to pay this out on Feb 29 and it is now March 15th. So you have reminded me that I will do it today. But
bounty coming, bounty payment.
Linda will get it. Yeah, Linda will be chasing you. And if you want people to trust you, you got to pay those bounties.
I've got to. This is entirely on me. I've been consumed by other things, but it's no excuse. My favorite recent frame that I saw, and this is the one that comes to mind, was from Jacob at Zora. And it was about 4844, and it was a like 7 or 8 frame, so to speak, where you had a globe with words around it, and by clicking the right button, the globe would spin. And so it was a little bit like stop motion, and it was a really nice interaction, actually, tapping it to see the globe spin.
Nice. I saw that one. I think I minted that one. Yeah, I think you could. If I remember correctly.
Are you a morning person or night owl?
I am a night owl, as evidenced by my lateness.
Concert or sporting event?
Can I say neither? Like tabletop game at home?
Yeah.
This is the Dan answer. This is the Dan Romero answer who went, can I say books?
Yeah, and then this is where I call people nerds. But that's
we love
why we're here.
Nerds. I'm sorry, but I am.
I love all the nerds.
I mean, we love the nerds.
We
are the nerds.
If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Oh,
good question.
I mean, my wildest dreams would be an amazing work of fiction about something completely esoteric. Today, it would probably be about like trust models and wallets. So very much what we were talking about.
I like your background, by the way. My favorite fiction is Lonesome Dove, and your virtual background today is giving very Western Lonesome Dove vibes. Okay. I'll just end with kiwi skin on or off. How do you eat a kiwi?
I scoop it up. So kiwi skin on, but I scoop it. Anybody who peels a kiwi must be a psychopath.
There you have it.
And on that note, I love it. I love it. On that note, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Henri, for joining us today from Privy. Make sure you go follow Privy on Warpcast. Follow Henri at Henri. I think you're just at Henri, I believe. And also check out there's a Privy channel as well, I believe. I think there is.
There is a Privy.
So go take a look at that.
Infrastructure content you could have dreamed of and more.
Amazing. And check out that blog post. There's also another one that's called Purple Frame, which I thought was to the tune of Purple Rain. That's pretty amazing as well. That talks about frames. So go check those out. We'll have those in the show notes of today's show. Again, apologies to our stream chat. We're sorry. We don't know what happened. It wasn't our fault. Blame Brian. But we love Brian. And we will see you again on Monday for more Farcaster, more GM Farcaster, 21 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day. And one last shout out. Thank you to all our Wow supporters who've joined us on Hypersub and our Mole supporter, and more coming with the CLP next week. More information on that. But thank you all for jumping on so quickly. It's been an amazing week. And we'll be airdropping this episode to you very shortly. So you'll see this in your wallet very soon. And with that note, everybody, happy Friday and